Welcome to Hustle and Pro Season 2, talking sports in Frisco from youth to pro. Now here's your host, Kelly Walker.
Welcome to today's episode of Hustle and Pro. We are talking with a Frisconian who is a product of Wakeland High School basketball and a fellow Texas Tech Red Raider, now a leader here in Frisco, Daniel Rentie. How are you today, Daniel?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in. All right, let's jump in with some quick hits to get to know you a little bit better in your sports world here. So, if you had to say who your favorite athlete of all time was, who would that be?
Oh, man, that is tough. Favorite athlete all time. Jason Terry. He's one of my favorites. It's a random, but I love Jason Terry.
I do too.
My first Mavericks game, he went off for like 30, and I saw a lot of my playing style in Jason Terry. And so it's one of those like weirdest things is like why is Jason Terry your favorite? But I really love his playing style. I love his confidence. And the way he carries himself, and then he brought our city a championship.
Yeah,
so
I don't think it's that weird. In
Yeah.
fact, my second question, if you didn't answer a Mav, was going to be who's your favorite Mav. So I guess that answers that one too.
Yeah.
So he's not in Frisco anymore. He was here,
Right.
front office with the Legends this past season, and just went back. I think he went back to his alma mater, maybe.
Yep, Arizona. I think he's assistant coach right now.
Yeah. So no more Jet here in the
Yeah.
Frisco arena, but that's all right. Okay, then who? So sports-wise, what's your favorite sport to watch, and what's your favorite sport to play yourself?
Favorite sport to watch is basketball, and then my favorite sport to play as well is basketball too.
Okay. So travel-wise, I know we're going to talk about maybe you doing some traveling when you were younger for sports. What's the farthest distance you've ever traveled for sports? To play or to watch, to go to a game? Either way.
I think to play was Las Vegas. I think that was the furthest trip. We always had the Super 64, the Adidas Invitational. I think that was the furthest one, either that one or I think Atlanta might be somewhere near the same distance, but we flew for both. And then for traveling, I went to the Rams Chiefs game in California.
Okay.
The one where it was like 52-55, the shootout. That one was honestly probably one of the best games I've ever been to. That was a fun one. That game was
Awesome.
actually originally supposed to be in Mexico City. And I was planning on being out there for Thanksgiving. And once they moved it up, I tried to see if I can get my flight moved up. And that ended up being the game of the century. So
It
was
worked
fun.
out.
Yeah, it did.
That's awesome. Isn't that
Yeah.
great when that works out? One of our favorite, my husband and I favorite memories was a last-minute kind of game that worked out, too. We weren't planning on being there. It was a Tech game in Lubbock. We were, it was just a last minute. We accidentally kind of got these tickets we weren't really supposed to have, and they ended up being like first row, and
Wow.
it was just one of those like we will never forget being at that game. Sometimes
Wow.
those are the best ones.
What sport?
It was a football game.
Football? Nice.
Yeah, it was like a back in the Crabtree days.
Uh-huh.
I don't even remember all the details. It was a UT game, and we thought we'll swing by and tailgate
Wait,
with some
was
friends.
it the game?
Yeah.
2008, the one Crabtree had the game-winning touchdown?
Catch, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You stumbled into that.
Yeah, we were
that's
supposed
amazing.
to just be tailgating with some friends, and we kind of did that whole, what you're not really supposed to do, like walk around at the front and feel like, see if you can get some tickets. And
Yeah.
some kids, sold us some tickets for cash.
Oh, no.
And we thought, there's a good chance these might not even get us in, right? You never know what you're buying. And these kids said that their dads were in a suite, and they had these extra seats, whatever. Well, we walk in, and sure enough, we're, on the front row. We couldn't believe it. And we went back out at halftime and told our friends that we were tailgating with, and they didn't believe us. And we were like, no, really, we were in there.
What a story for that
Yeah.
game, too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes, it was awesome. Okay, so what's your favorite sports movie?
Sports movie, Space Jam.
Space Jam. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, talk about Last Dance.
I watch Space Jam literally
Talking about
3
that a
times
lot.
a day. I probably annoyed my parents with how
No
often I watch
way.
Space Jam. Got Space Jam jersey, T-shirt, socks, everything.
That's
I can't
awesome.
even wait for Space Jam 2. I just hope they don't mess it up. So.
That's awesome. Okay, so I mentioned in the open that you went to Wakeland High School. So real quick, tell me kind of your sports path, your life sports story real quick.
Yeah. One, it was definitely really influenced a lot by my dad. My dad was a big time receiver out of LBJ High School in Austin, Texas, and he ended up going to UTA, UT Arlington, while they had a program, and he was like all Central Texas and everything. And so I would say a lot of my athletic gifts were from him. But I grew up falling in love with basketball. One of my cousins was a big-time running back in Kansas City, Missouri, Richmond, Missouri, and he used to shatter all the records. And so I grew up kind of in his shadow, and everybody thought we were brothers because we lived together and everything. And so honestly, I started competing at an early age and had a lot of success early too. Like I would have some ridiculous games just when I was young.
Early age, how early?
I'm talking about like little, it's called itty bitty basketball is what they called it. 4 years old, literally playing basketball in the little mini hoop stuff. And so they had some really, really good leagues when I was in Kansas City. And I used to, when I think about it, I probably just didn't pass the ball, but
well, yeah.
like anybody's
That's
little
your
league
natural
stuff.
when you're little. Your natural inclination is not giving the ball away on purpose. So, do you have siblings that you watched, or was this your sibling figure?
That was my sibling figure, because my two sisters, one was cheerleading and volleyball, but I was really, really close to my cousin Jeremiah just because of what he did. He shattered almost a lot of running back records at his school, even played basketball, was pretty good. And so I kind of grew up under his influence, and so it made me a very strong competitor. And I played a lot of basketball growing up. I played football, competitive baseball leagues. Like coming into high school, we went to state my sophomore year in basketball while I was in Missouri.
I was going to say, you weren't here yet, right?
Right. No, I was only it was my freshman sophomore year was in Missouri, and I had great influences at a coach that was coming. He was a big time running back at OU. His name was Jamar Mosey, and he was one of my big sports influences growing up too in Little League. And he actually ended up coming to my high school in Missouri, but I ended up transferring, moving to Texas, and so it was one of those things. But yeah, got to Texas, and I had some friends from Kansas City that were here in Frisco, and they literally like family for us. Like they used to really be close. They're still close to my family to this day. And I found that he was here in Frisco, got connected with his AAU basketball team, and ever since then I found out a bunch of those kids were from Wakeland, and so that's how I ended up choosing Wakeland High School. And so that's just kind of how I got into that.
Was it your family that moved to Frisco?
Yeah, so I was originally born in Fort Worth.
Oh, okay.
So I have a lot of family in Kansas City and in Texas. Texas was always at heart home for us, but we kind of just made a home in Kansas City. But the opportunity after my sister graduated from high school, we kind of had the opportunity to move back. And my mom found a good job, and they asked her, like, hey, do you want to go back to Texas? I was like, yes, please.
Are you the baby?
I am the baby.
Okay.
Yep, I'm the last. And my other cousins, they were in the Duncanville area. And so in summer workouts, when I would come and visit, I would sometimes do it with them. And so I saw their facilities and saw how much greater and bigger Texas things were. I was like, yes, please, take me back to Texas.
Right.
And so that's kind of how that came about.
That's awesome. And especially in Frisco, I mean, this couldn't be a better place to move as a high school kid wanting to be in sports, right?
Cream of the crop.
Yeah. So then when did you mentioned a couple multi-sports, which I love. I think multi-sport athletes is the way to go. It's just better for your body, better for just everything about how to be a better all-around athlete. When did you focus on basketball and start traveling and doing
I started competitive basketball when I was in the 5th grade in Kansas City, so I always did that. Even actually, when I think about it, even when I was in 2nd grade, I was playing in 2 types of league, like a local league and a more competitive league. I was always trying to play where the best players were. I played up often. That made me better as a player.
That's the baby piece of it, too,
Yeah,
right?
I did. It's true. It is true.
When you're the baby or you're the parents, you realize he can do a little more.
Right.
He can play with the older kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get thrown into the fire
But
a little bit
it makes you
more.
better.
It does. It really does. And so that's kind of just how I can you repeat the question again?
Well, just ask and win. So you talked about 5th grade. You were competitive, and then so you traveled and did the different tournament circuits, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Was that mostly like high school time?
Well, yeah. So like I said, I did that. I started that in 5th grade. That's where I got really exposed to AAU.
Okay.
And that was like really for competitive basketball. That was kind of like the roots of like it evolving into what it is today. And so it definitely intensified once it got into high school because it was a lot more exposure. I mean, you would see just coaches from wherever. Like I remember just at tournaments, you would have UT, you would have Coach K, you would have just all the big time coaches, Brad Stevens at the time, and remember running into a bunch of NBA players and stuff. And so I loved it. It definitely was a great culture and elevated the game because it was super competitive. Everybody was going for scholarships and things like that, and so.
So some of these
Those are good
tournaments
memories.
that you went to, Great American Shootout, Adidas Super 64, FILA Nationals, I don't know what that is, and then MAYB Nationals. I'm not
Yeah.
in the basketball circuit, so I don't know all of those youth tournaments and stuff. So are those all just like, are these kind of weekend, like every other weekend, your family's loading up and taking you somewhere?
That's exactly what it was. Yep,
Yeah.
all the time. So, summers were definitely busy
Yeah,
because of that.
I
So,
bet. Yeah. So was this something that you thought at some point you'd play in college?
Yeah, for sure. It was a big time dream of mine. I actually even tried walking on when I was over at Kansas State. It actually ended up being one of the factors why I decided to go to Kansas State because I had an academic scholarship in architectural engineering, but I was like, you know what, this would be a good place to go out swinging if I wanted to try to fulfill this dream because I had some small school interest and it was at the time when I look back on it, I probably should have gave it a lot. At the end of the day, it's school, and so I
Right.
should have gave it a lot more consideration. But I literally had that, like you said, last child syndrome. Like if I'm going to play, I might as well try to play amongst the best. And so I figured for me, it was more of a peace of mind if I like tried to go out swinging at the best, and if it wasn't for me, I was going to accept that. But I felt like I felt more satisfied knowing that I took that risk.
Yeah.
So
Of trying to walk on at Kansas
Yep,
State. And then you didn't play there, right?
Right.
So I know my husband's the same way. He could have played somewhere at small schools, but ultimately he wanted more of a bigger college school experience
yeah,
over the playing.
Right.
He played his whole life. I mean, he would have played, but you know what I mean. Like you said, you kind of then took the school route, I guess, right?
Yep.
So how'd you end up at Tech though?
So I ended up finding out that architecture engineering wasn't for me. And so since I switched my major, I lost my scholarship. And so I was figuring out, okay, I got to go back in state. And so I was really down to UNT and Texas Tech. And Texas Tech was one of the original schools that I was considering. Cost was a lot cheaper. And I had two of my close friends from Wakeland were there. And there were a lot of Frisco people there in general. And so
Sure.
I felt a little bit more at home and a little bit further away from home at
Yeah,
Tech. So.
that's exactly why I went there. I was there a little earlier than you, but so what was going on in Texas Tech sports when you were there?
Ooh, we were just on the upswing. Tubby was there, just building the program. Basketball had missed the tournament when I first got there. Football was struggling. Davis Webb was out of Prosper. I think it was his last year at Tech before he ended up transferring. But they were losing some competitive games, and that's honestly that describes my time at Texas Tech. Like they would lose some really close ones. Like I saw the nail biter against TCU, the shootout against Oklahoma. Like there were so many close games that we would lose by less than 7 points
Yeah.
that we would just come on the other side of it. And so I was a big believer in Cliff Kingsbury. I loved what he was doing with the program.
Yeah.
I loved that he loved Tech too.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
and then in basketball, we were on the upswing. There was I had a year of Tubby, and then Chris Beard came in and just changed everything.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome seeing
Yeah.
that transformation with Texas Tech sports. Tadlock has just been killing it since I've been there. So Texas Tech sports, even track, Palm Squad, like almost
Right.
a lot of sports.
That's
Texas
so
Tech
funny,
has just
Palm
been,
Squad. You can tell you have
just
a sister
killing
that's
it.
a cheerleader.
Yeah, she
You
won
mentioned-
state, so I have to shout her out in
Awesome.
her cheerleading. We had a lot of debates growing up whether or not cheerleading was a sport, and by the time like she got to her success, she fully convinced me of just what it takes to be a cheerleader.
It's
you
not a
know?
joke.
Exactly, it's not at all.
You knowing firsthand, if that's not an athlete, right? What is? Because those girls and guys they work hard.
Get up
They're
early in the morning,
strong.
5 o'clock, and it's a different beast. She was like, "Oh, okay, how about you try it?" And next thing you know, I was like, oh, "Okay, y'all," because I used to always say, "Oh yeah, y'all are just fans. Y'all don't do normal stuff." But then
Right.
seeing like their actual practices, I was like, "This is legit."
Yeah, it is legit, right? And yeah, that's one of those things that Tech is good at. So that's awesome. That's you were there to kind of like you kept saying it upswing, right? When nothing was as big as it is right now,
Right.
like tournament basketball wise, and then some good football years. We've never, hit as good as the football years as we maybe one day.
Yeah.
But I always say that's kind of what we expect. That's all right. We still have fun
Right.
watching them, even though
The games are
we're-
entertaining. We score, so
middle of the pack is still fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, I loved watching Cliff Kingsbury coach there. And I still, I think a lot of Tech people follow his career now.
Yeah.
And still root for him to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
He's my age, so we were there at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so then tell me, so you mentioned earlier about Jason Terry. So obviously you're a big Mavs fan.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your biggest Mavs memories? Like any noteworthy games or anything like that you can brag about with Mavs?
Yeah. Well, one, I'll start with heartbreak, was the 2006 run, and we were up 2-0, and I was doing all the bragging to my friends, talking about, we're about to win a championship.
You gotta wait.
This was actually one of the biggest years that I got in tune. It was the year before, actually, because 2005, I came up for my first Mavericks game, and that was after I really saw Jason Terry and kind of attached to him.
Uh-huh.
And it was crazy. The year after, they actually had some big success.
Yeah.
With Avery Johnson, but
you jumped in at a good time.
Perfect time, actually. you can't beat it, and that was heartbreaking. I remember that feeling, just the Dwayne Wade takeover. How many times he got free throws, and I feel like the refs kind of rigged that series. I still to this day believe that, and so I give that for context because it makes that 2011 run so much more special.
Yes, I agree.
And that run we beat some giants, and to see the team play together, Jason Kidd get one, Dirk play to the level that he was, and the amount of defense, and Rick Carlisle drawing up the plays that he did.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It really was.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Game 6 when we clinched it, because I just could not believe that we were the underdog against the Heat. Everything was just so special that series.
Yeah.
And we actually were
come
coming
together.
Yes,
yeah,
it was awesome. We were on the road. We had just won a tournament in Tulsa, like my life AAU stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to get back just to watch the game. And Jason Terry was going. I was just hearing on the road. He had 26 that game, and just to see the final moments of us clinching that championship.
Yeah.
That'll be that's the most special Mavs memory that I even cherish.
Awesome.
Was that run. So.
That's awesome. The Mavs, thankfully, they timed those playoff runs with my children being born. So we were home and able to watch everything really in tune. I remember making my in 2006, my daughter was born, and we made her a baby newborn onesie. And I think I have a picture of us sitting in front watching the Mavs playoff run. And then my son was in late 2010, so we got to enjoy both of those playoff runs with our babies and indoctrinating them into Mavs world early on in their lives.
That's awesome.
All right, so then talk to me about the Chiefs. I know you're a lifelong Chiefs fan.
Yes.
So, man, talk about being a Chiefs fan right now. So last season. So do you get to go back? Do you go to those games?
Yes. And actually, for anybody that's listening right now, I am purposely wearing my Chiefs Super Bowl shirt right now.
We'll post a picture.
Yes, because
you're sporting both. What your hat?
I'm actually sporting a lot right now because
Okay.
my hat is red, but it was from a Texas Tech Mavericks game.
It's got Mavs logo,
and
but a
Texas
Red
Tech
Raider.
on the side. Yeah, it's really cool.
I love it.
I get to support all my teams.
Yeah,
right now. But
you figured out a way to pull in 3 teams with 2 things.
Right, with the same. It's special, but yeah, I get to go to some Chiefs games here and then. Yesterday I was looking because my boss is a big time Dolphins fan, and they play in Arrowhead Stadium in December of this year, and so I try to get to at least one game a year. I drove up in the snow for 10 hours to the home playoff game against the Colts, not this past season, but the year before, and that was the first home playoff game that the Chiefs won since I was alive. And so it was just really cool to see that part of just history.
You might be good luck.
Be special in that stadium. Arrowhead Stadium is just a special place to be at. And so I try not to do too much as far as just going to a lot, but I try to at least sneak in.
The big games.
Yeah, just
Sounds
little
like
opportunities, yeah.
Been to a few big games.
I was trying my hardest to get to the Super Bowl, too.
Did we talk about, going back a step to the Mavs, did we talk about D-Wade and Dirk's last game, or Dirk's last game?
Yes, I actually went to that one, too. That was special, because it's just one of those things. They've had just such a big rivalry against each other with the history of the championships and just the path of their legacies. That was a really, really cool one to see, them going back and forth with each other for a little bit and seeing that special moment of them exchanging jerseys.
Yeah.
That's one I'll never forget as well, just because that was all in that was just a very special sports year for me. We had that that Chiefs-Rams game that I went to, and then it was Texas Tech Final Four national championship.
Oh my gosh!
And then
it was the same time?
Yes, Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade.
Farewell tour.
Yeah, farewell tour. So it was special.
That's awesome, man! You were living your best sports life that year.
Yeah, no, really.
That's pretty great. All right, so you're back in Frisco. So you run some 3v3 leagues, right?
Yeah.
What, football and basketball and what, volleyball?
Yeah. So we actually will be in the fall.
Okay, tell me about right now everything's a question mark, right? But so tell me about, like, you don't work in sports, but how are you weaving sports into work?
Yeah. One thing, I'm a big believer in you have to think about the things that unite people together, and it's sports and music. A lot of people come together for the big sports games or the big concerts, and so me as my role in ministry, I was trying to find out, okay, how can I get involved in these things that help unite people together? And so me and a guy from our church named Mark Caswell, he's over just our sports ministries. We're getting together to do these sports leagues to kind of help build relationships within our community.
Do you want to tell us what church?
Frisco First Baptist Church.
Okay.
Yep. And so we're hoping to do this in the fall. We actually shot a commercial last week, and August 11th is the date that we're expecting, hopefully, to be able to kick off these things. But it'll be good. It'll help people get active, get out into the community, and meet other people, and ultimately build relationships and hopefully point people to Christ. And so I think it'll be a really, really fun thing to be able to do. And Frisco is creating a little bit more of this college culture right now. And so I'm trying to create some events that college students can come to as well. Because we don't always have that, like when you're in Lubbock at Texas Tech, we have the student union buildings to come to and meet together. We don't necessarily always have that here in Frisco just yet, but
I've never thought about that.
We have to create that here, And so I want students to feel comfortable and to be able to network and meet people, and so I'd like to be able to create some spaces like that.
Is youth ministries your wheelhouse?
I'm in college ministry right now.
College,
yep.
okay.
I just started college ministry in September. And it's called Paradigm College Ministry. And one, mainly because UNT Frisco will be coming as a campus in a couple of years, even more. And so we want to be able to create a foundation before that really, really kicks off. And there's a bunch of college students in our area in general.
Yeah.
And that's becoming more of a trend, doing college from home anyways. And so we know that college students are here. And so we want to find ways to reach them.
And what a better way than sports and music, like you said, to bring, like, to fellowship together, bring people together, build relationships, and be able to have that kind of platform, I guess, to talk to them as young people about life and what they're going to expect when they, quote unquote, get out in the real world. I mean, I know you're in the real world in college, but there's still some attachments to being a kid still at the same time.
It's true.
That's an important role that you're playing for those young people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can grow this thing because we know the students are here, and so we just want to constantly find ways of how we can reach them.
Fantastic. And do you want to plug your own podcast?
Oh yes, for sure.
Here?
Yeah. So me and my friend from Texas Tech, actually, we started a podcast a few weeks ago. Perfect timing, actually, and it's called Spoon and Rentie. That's Spoon, ANDRENTIE. And we basically give biblical perspective towards life experiences. And so we want to help make the Bible just relatable. And we know that it can be hard to understand at times just by yourself. And so we want to help just explain it just in everyday life type of terms so that we can learn how to just apply our everyday situations to the Word of God.
I love that. All right, so this is me signing off. Rarely do I ask you to subscribe to 2 podcasts, but subscribe to Hustle and Pro if you don't already, and go ahead and subscribe to Spoon and Rentie. I'm going to go do that when we log off here so that I can go hear Daniel and who, Greg? What's his name?
Lorian Witherspoon.
Ryan?
Spoon.
Lorian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why I said Greg.
No, you're fine.
I'll go listen to Daniel and Lorian talk. And so thanks for listening to this episode of Hustle and Pro, and we will see you next week.